Welcome to the Midlife Masculine Podcast. I am Dhruv Sethi. As men, we reach an inflection point in our lives where we question our achievements. Despite societal expectations and our own credentials, many of us feel unfulfilled. I have lived in 3 countries, built a career in finance, achieved several academic and professional qualifications. But I know there's still more to life, just like most men today. Join me as I invite guests to share wisdom so that we men become self-sovereign in mind, body, and spirit, all with a spiritual undertone. Welcome to another episode of the Midlife Masculine Podcast. My guest today is Stavros Spyrou. Stavros is a high-performance coach and also my friend. He was previously a spend analyst at the National Health Service in the UK and an aspiring actor. And whilst he was an actor, he started his coaching career and has been doing that for over 5 years and is now a digital nomad across Europe, but spends a lot of his time in Cyprus. Stav, man, welcome. It's great to have you.
Great to be here, Drew. Thank you for having me.
So you've been traveling quite a bit. You were in Cyprus and then was it the US recently as well?
Yeah, US. Before that, I went to Sweden to see the Northern Lights as well. So that was an experience and a half.
And then you're going to Coventry.
Yes, I'm going to Coventry. Yes, that's a nice switch from... The lights there will be different.
Yeah, pretty different. You got a fog cloud of pollution maybe from the industries.
But it's all good. I'm going to go and see family. My uncle just did his house up, so he's like invited myself. I'm taking my mum down as well to see her brother. So we're going to go and see the family down there. So spend a weekend in Coventry. Leamington Spa as well. So.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yeah. So how is it living over in Cyprus versus the UK? I mean, you were brought up in the UK. And your heritage is Cypriot, so yes. How is it living over there?
Very different. The pace of life is much slower, which is really nice. But at times, it can also get a bit annoying because coming from London, being born and raised in London, it's like, oh, I want to go and do this, I want to go and do this. Cyprus is like, there's not that much. But it's getting better. The good thing I love about Cyprus is I have such a big family over there, get so many cousins. So it's never like, always have time to go out and in terms of like with cousins, with family, etc. So it's really nice we have that big community because my mum and dad come from a big family. So altogether I've got about 47 first cousins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a family-based culture.
It's a very family-based. So if I'm living like here, my uncle was like living, let's say 200 meters from me. I've got my aunt living 100 meters from me. So everyone's within like 5 kilometers distance. And
do men and women still play the traditional roles over there?
When you say traditional roles, you mean the masculine, feminine roles in terms of like marriage and kids and things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also having I think it's at a nice point where it has a nice mix where it's like, the man also helps out versus back in the day, it was just literally the woman doing everything. Now as a household should be, it should be both people contributing to the household, for example, whether it's cooking, cleaning or providing, or if the woman decides to stay at home, then up to the man to do their thing as well.
All right, interesting. So I had a coaching session with you back in November 2023, and it was very liberating and very relaxing. You got me to describe my business ambitions and goals, and you noted that I was feeling quite stressed about it. And during our session, you helped me realize that I'm interlinking a lot of other things, minor details, to my goals and ambitions. And that was putting a lot of pressure on me, on my back. So before going into too much detail, question 2 is, what is your coaching style?
Okay, thanks for asking. So my coaching style is finding those blocks that we're unaware of. Sort of those subconscious blocks in the way. And what we are doing is usually we are blocked because we are denying a part of reality. There's a part of reality that we're denying. And we've identified with this other part. So the whole purpose of the work is to clear out any blocks, any beliefs, any identities that has us stuck feeling one thing. So for example, if someone wants to go and speak on stage, but they're feeling shy because for some reason throughout their life they've adopted an identity of a shy person. Going up to speak on stage and having that identity is going to block you from speaking. because you're in this identity of a shy person. Let's say, for example, you were at school and you went to speak up at school in front of your friends, and your friends were laughing at you, etc. So you were like, you know what, I'm going to be this shy person. I'm going to adopt this identity of a shy person, because when I do that, my friends will stop laughing at me. And that identity that you adopt, it does work, but it comes to a point where it doesn't work, where you're like, I want to go and speak in front of the public, I want to go and present, or I want to do a podcast, for example. But if I'm shy speaking in front of people, if I adopt that identity, that's going to block me. So what we do is almost like clear that identity of a shy person and integrate or allow the option of identity of a confident person. So when you're on stage, you can adopt that identity for yourself.
And that process from changing that identity, how long does it usually take for people?
Anywhere between 30 seconds to about 15, 20 minutes. So it's a pretty quick process.
Was it the process you applied with me where we peel the layers?
We peel layers back, yeah. So we start off with a problem, like you came in with a problem, and we look at what blocks are underneath that problem. And then as we go lower, as we go deeper, we can then find an identity or find blocks in the way there.
And just for the listeners, so what we did was I had my business goals and ambitions, and I was feeling quite pressured. Like this, it was almost like I wasn't allowed to do fun stuff. I had to wake up early and had to work hard, had to work long. Didn't quite know, but when I had that session with you, Stav, you helped me realize that I'm putting that pressure on myself. A lot of things are interlinked, and I didn't know they were interlinked, but you helped me attach an emotion to each of those layers. And quite frankly, ever since our session in November, I have felt quite relaxed about my goals and ambitions.
Yep.
And if I want to wake up late a day, it's okay. Like I can do that. That helped me.
That's part of the layer. That's part of the process. So as we were going through with you, it's like we started off on the one problem, and then I didn't know what problems were going to come up because everyone's problems are going to be different as we're going through the layers. But what we did with you, or what we deal with a lot of people, is clearing out those have-tos. We have a lot of have-tos. Oh, I have to do this. I have to work hard. I have to. And we want to get to the point where you can choose to work hard. So working hard is a choice, or being social is a choice, or talking to people is a choice. We want to get rid of those have-tos, because when we have our have-tos, let's say we work really hard and we feel good for a certain moment, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, if we're lucky. And then it's like, cool, what else do I need to do now to work hard? And then the guilt comes in, like you might have, like you said with yourself, if there was guilt around, I wake up in the morning and I feel, oh, I've slept in. Man, I feel really guilty for sleeping in, because I have that block inside me of, I have to work hard, that belief inside me of, I have to work hard. When we clear that out, it gives you choice. You can choose to work hard because you want to, not because you feel like you have to, because you're trying to get some internal validation from working hard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was my biggest takeaway from our session. And is that what you see with most of your clients as well?
Yeah, everything I do is about giving choice. When you have choice, that's the ultimate freedom. Having choice around what you do is the ultimate freedom. So in that example around working hard, or even being successful, you have a lot of successful people nowadays who are successful, but you know what? They have to keep on that success all the time. It's almost like feeding something. The most successful person is a person that can choose to be successful, can choose to work hard, has that ultimate choice, has that ultimate freedom.
Very interesting. And most of your clients, are they men or women?
It's a mixture, actually. I say about 60-40, men to women.
And the men who come to you, what are the most common issues that they're dealing with?
It varies. But I'll give you some examples. So there's some work stuff as well. So I have some here. I want to work on a project. I want to do what I want to do without getting distracted by all the things I have to do. I feel self-confident. However, when there's a comparison to others, I have a feeling of inadequacy, and I try to remove myself from the situation. We have others, such as when I try to do something new and it's on me, I feel paralyzed because I don't feel like other people can help me. So
that example of feeling inadequate, where does that typically stem from?
Usually from childhood. So you weren't allowed to speak out, you're not allowed to speak up, or this is an example I sometimes give. Let's say, as a young kid, let's say there's two children. One is really loud and making a lot of noise, etc., and the other one is really quiet. Parents, through no fault of their own, by default, they'll pay attention to the one that's really loud, either to get them to calm down or to relax, etc. But the one who's being quiet, parents are like, oh, it's such a great kid. They're being really quiet. They don't need anything. the typical, oh, they're so well behaved. So that's an area where it can come from. So where the attention is not paid just because they're doing what they should be doing. So it's like being quiet, etc. They get rewarded for being quiet.
Generally, parents are at fault.
No.
I'm joking, by the way. If my parents are listening, they're not at fault.
I know, but I just had to put that out there because I always come from the fact that parents do the best job they can with the resources they have, with the tools they have. Because if they could have done better, then they would have done better. But even parents, like ourselves, we have our own blocks, our own beliefs, our own challenges in the way. And I've worked with clients who have had really difficult childhoods, and they can then, throughout processes, some can see their parents through a lens of like, it was okay what it was done, what happened to them, but through an area of like compassion, saw them as like fellow human beings with their stuff in the way. So yeah.
So part of your training or coaching style is that forgiving parents or whichever adults were present in their lives during childhood, like when you say compassion, forgiving is...
Yeah, but that might come out naturally. It's not something I go and chase for a client to do. That might just come up naturally through our work. Because some people are there, some people aren't, and wherever someone is, that's okay. We're not... Because when I'm working with a client, like my old work used to be a lot of like, let's look at your childhood, etc. But now I want to look at what's the problem right in front. And if childhood stuff comes up, great. If it doesn't, also great. Like when I was working with you, no childhood stuff came up. We're just looking at what was the problem, what was there, what was coming up for you.
My parents did well then.
Fantastic.
No, good stuff. So just going back to, you were an aspiring actor at one point. And so what led you to leave that and seek a career as a high performance coach?
Well, while I was doing the acting, there was a lot of like, we were practicing a lot of auditions, and regardless of how many times I would do an audition, or even as we were practicing auditions or doing like real life audition, I would always get nervous. So I was like, why am I still getting nervous? And like, I've done this like hundreds of times. Why is this still happening? And so I found like a few modalities, did like a few things on myself, like, ooh, I like these results. Let's go and dig deeper. And in around 2014, early 2015, when I went to Scotland to do a little bit more acting training, as I was doing the acting training on the side, I was actually doing more of this high performance stuff, this learning modalities, learning about beliefs, about identities, around blocks, around how people work, how they function, confidence things. And interestingly, I was like, I'm going up here for acting, but a lot of my money was spent on, I have to learn to do this. So yeah. So it was, going back to your question, it was around, I have a thing of things have to be easy, or that was one of my blocks I had, of things have to be easy, which sort of served me up to a point. And also, there was laziness coming in from me. I had laziness. So I wanted to find something that works quickly. So my laziness actually worked for me in a way. It's like the sort of like cheaty way to feel better, to get better, or to, as opposed to doing years and years and years and years and years and years of therapy or whatever you do.
Yeah, I've been told as well that sometimes laziness can be helpful because it sort of spurs you to find a quicker way.
Yeah.
A short.
Yep. So it sort of helped me. The identity of being a lazy person helped me. But obviously, it doesn't work in some areas. And that's the point of clearing out identities, is that, or bringing the identity of a confident person, is you want to have that option available to you. Before
we hit record, you said as well, when you were an aspiring actor, one reason why you went into it was to work on your confidence. So how did you overcome that confidence?
Yeah, no, it was while I was in the performance coaching training, because I was doing the acting for about 5 years or so. And I started this training, I started it around the 4 year and a half, around into the 4th year of doing the acting. And I noticed before that, I was still getting nervous. But then after that, I was like, oh, okay, now I'm not getting nervous anymore. Wait, auditions are so much easier now. Wait, but then I thought, you know what? I like the results of this as opposed to the acting. Yeah, the acting was almost like a lead in to find this.
Interesting. It's interesting how we start something, but midway we decide, we change our course and we really find what we truly like. But I want to dig a bit deeper into the acting, and there's a reason for that. Because a lot of my listeners are midlife men, working professionals, have to hold presentations, or they have to present something, whether in a presentation format or otherwise, in order to grow their careers. Yeah. So to get rid of that shyness or nervousness about presenting, what advice can you give them?
Well, you can ask yourself one question. If you're going up to speak in a presentation and you feel nervous, ask yourself, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about people that has me feeling this way? And usually you get to a nice belief. You get to like, oh, other people are better than me, or I'm worried what other people will think, or I'm inferior to others, whatever the belief, whatever the block may be. So you can ask yourself that question. What am I believing about myself, about people, about the situation that has me feeling this way?
And is it usually some form of inferiority complex?
It can be whatever comes up for that person. It's very varied. It could be like other people are better than me, or I'm inferior, or I'm powerless, or people aren't interested in what I have to say, or what I say doesn't matter. I'm not good enough.
So would you suggest to those people, if they ever have to present, that they feel nervous, do you think they should take that as a cue to perhaps get some sort of coaching?
Get some coaching, or also at the least investigate. I have that awareness as to why am I feeling this way? What is in the way? What blocks are in the way that has me feeling this way? And it cannot be in a presentation. It could be when I'm doing work and I'm procrastinating around something. Wait, why am I procrastinating around this piece of work? What is it about me that I'm procrastinating? Oh, you know what? I need to do things perfectly. That's quite a common one. If I need to do things perfectly, then I'm probably going to procrastinate on starting, because perfectionism and procrastination are cousins. They're very similar.
Very interesting. And in that same vein, we see now in London, especially in big cities, more and more men and women are single in their late 30s, 40s. And because this podcast is primarily for midlife men, those midlife men who are single, who are perhaps nervous, not really dating or approaching women, what typical problems do you think they're facing?
With them, so if you're trying to approach women, there's usually like, women make all the decisions. That's a nice belief to have. Or women have all the power. That's quite a good one. There's usually like a sort of power struggle coming up. So it's putting women or relating to women on a regular emotional level, on a regular level, like speaking like you would speak to a friend. Because you feel like because a lot of men, I've noticed, like feel very comfortable speaking to friends, but when it comes to women, they just freeze up.
Yeah, I've seen that with some friends.
Yeah. So it's like, what's the difference? So again, you can ask yourself, what am I believing to have myself freezing up in front of a woman?
Have you had clients who've come with romance issues?
There have been a couple, yes. No, not a lot, but there have been a couple that have come with like trying to get out there and dating and having those blocks in the way of dating. And it usually leads back to, there's some childhood stuff there, but there might even be some traumas there from like previous relationships, some thinking about sex and how sex should be or how I should be, especially if you get stuck in looking at pornography and how that can actually warp the mind and how that can actually change your brain and things like that when you get. So there's that issue as well.
Yeah, I've read about that. It skews what a relationship should be like. Yeah. And what is your suggestion on that to men if they're watching porn?
Limit it if you can. Drop it down to like, because porn, like anything else, is an addiction. And if you can, limit it. Because when you limit watching your porn, or you can get that, if you can get down to not watching it and really just, because when you're watching porn, it's not like you're trying to do it to feel good or to feel better, but it's a dopamine hit. And in a sense where it's almost like if you start watching it out in the first place, I'd only look at a photo, for example. Someone would only look at a photo. And then it gets deeper and deeper and deeper because you can try and get a bigger dopamine hit. I'd say go and do stuff that gives you a natural dopamine hit. Let's say going for a walk on a beautiful day like this. Yes, there's clouds out, but it's a beautiful day. Going for a social dance, for example. Go and learn some salsa or do something that gets you out of that computer mode, that computer glitchy mode.
Is that why you started doing salsa?
Good question. No, it wasn't. But yeah, that was also part of the social thing. Yeah, so you want to do stuff that gives you like a natural dopamine hit. Like exercise is a great one because you just came back from your workout. I'm guessing you feel really great having done that workout.
Absolutely.
Yeah, natural dopamine. Yeah, because we human beings are born to move. We're born to eat good food. Yeah. So join a group, have some friends, join a group, or if you don't have any friends, find a group, find a meetup group. There's in a city like London, there's so many things to do. Like on a Saturday, I can think of like 50 odd events to do right now.
London is pretty special that way. Yeah. But dating in London as well is a bit tricky for both men and women. I think women are high achievers now, and the more they achieve, the pool of men that they're attracted to becomes smaller and smaller. So typically women want men who earn at least as much as them or more. But as they're growing their careers, that pool of men is just becoming smaller.
Is that your belief?
That's my understanding. But I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But at some point in the past, many, many years ago, I would say that was my belief.
I was kidding, but that's usually like, that's a belief as well. Like, oh, a high performer woman, or a woman who's a high performance person wouldn't want someone like me.
Interesting.
So that's worth looking at as well, as if you have that block in there as well.
Another session then.
Yeah, but that's almost like some of the, like you just said, some of these blocks, these beliefs, when you get pretty good at it, you can catch it in your speech, in your language patterns. Because there's also blocks and beliefs that are social conditionings. So, for example, when I first started, clients would be going through like great changes, and they'd almost like deny the changes as well, even though we have them like write their shifts, write what they've noticed from one day to the next, and they'll be denying these changes because there's a social thing that's going around, or that has gone around, that change has to be difficult, that change has to be hard, that change has to take a long time. And so when I started clearing those blocks out, people were just up leveling so much faster, so much quicker. So you didn't have that thing in their way of, oh, you know what? I need to work hard at this change for this change to stick.
Yeah, I can relate to that because some years ago, just to finish my point, I think some years ago, I would think that, women are high achievers. They want men, therefore, who achieve at least twice as much as them. But then as I grew older, I discovered that it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. My observation was that it doesn't need to be that way. But regardless, there is a difficulty between men and women in a city like London to really meet and have a long-term relationship. And I wonder what that could be in that case.
What do you mean is a difficulty?
It's almost like both are expecting too much from each other. I would say, in fact, that women expect a lot more from men, and men sort of feel that.
How do you know that?
From my observations or conversations with other men who have been on the dating scene. So that's what I sort of picked up.
Here's the thing around, we generalize a lot around, because London is a city of 10 million people, so half are women. So let's say in your age bracket, there's about 2 million people, or so 2 million women?
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly, yeah. Forgive me on the math, if someone can correct me on that. No, but what I'm saying, we tend to make generalizations around like, women expect too much. But let's say someone's dated, or they've gone speed dating, for example, they've gone out on dates, and let's say they've gone out on 50 dates, 100 dates. Out of 2 million women, for example, that's a very, 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 very small percentage that you're trying to generalize on.
Maybe. Yeah, you might have a point.
Yeah, so trying to keep it as open as possible. And going back and looking, if that's your experience, it's like, well, why do I believe that? Why do I believe that women only want a successful person? Because if you think about it, you said as women grow and become high achievers, they want someone who's more successful. So you get women making 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million a year. How many people are in that bracket that can actually be more successful than them? You're looking at in the world, or let's say in just the UK, you're looking at your 0.1%, right? Not even the 1%. Because if you're making 30k or 30k a year, you're in the top 1% in the whole world. It is 1 or 2%. You're in the top 1 or 2%. So
we're the elite, the 1%. The World Economic Forum should invite me over there.
Pretty much.
Very interesting. So what is next for you then? Because you're traveling a lot now to various countries to meet some of your clients.
Yes, I'm traveling around countries. I was just last week in Denver, where we did an intensive. So me and some other people in my field, we did about 15 of us, did an intensive of 3 days of working with clients in a space in Colorado. So that was really good fun. So made some rapid change there. So that was really good fun. So doing that, going over to Holland next week to do some training, to do some body training actually. So as I clear out stuff in the body, in the mind very quickly and easily, I'm going to go and do some training I've had some experience of it, so I'm going to do some training of how to clear muscle pain and joint pain really easily as well.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about was early last year we were speaking about psychedelics. So in your line of work, to what extent can psychedelics help?
In what sense?
Like to clear blockages, traumas, to then become the best version.
Psychedelics can help, but I think you need the guidance with it. Because I think it might have been Gabor Mate, who initially, this was about 10 years ago, he had great work using psychedelics. I think it might have been ayahuasca with heroin addicts, getting them off heroin, because heroin as a drug is one of the most addictive drugs. Hence why you need methadone to get off it. You can't even just quit it cold turkey. But he had very good results using psychedelics, the ayahuasca in particular, in getting heroin addicts off heroin. So that was that. I think there's some studies going on as well in UCL and LSE using psilocybin.
I've read some of these studies where they've actually helped addicts get off these artificial drugs.
And one thing I would say, I think you need to be guided, because a lot of people, it's been done where you go and do psychedelic journeys. It's like, let's go on holiday in Peru, or let's go in there's a lot of pop-ups. So it's almost like you have to find the right one. And I would also say, if you've never done psychedelics before, it's basically a 0 to 200 miles an hour. Like you're in a car going from 0 to 200 miles per hour straight, and then the brakes being slammed on you. So it will knock you for a few days. So I'd say if you're thinking about doing it, before you go and do it, do some meditation, clear out your blocks. It's almost like you want to have almost like a sort of like clear mind before you go. If you're a person that gets stressed easily, etc., have some sessions, clear out some blocks, some beliefs before you go and do it. Because it's one of those things that I've had it, not myself, but I've had a friend who went and did it. And before they went, I said, do some meditation like for 2-3 months, something like that, just to, not that meditation will clear out your problems, but just to settle down things. Do it before you go. And they didn't do that, and they went and they came back and they were like, because they felt all this sort of like loving feeling and all that when you're in that space, and they felt that for a couple of days, but then for about 2 months afterwards, they almost like weren't themselves, because it shakes you up a lot.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I'd say it's almost like you'd want to clear out some blocks, some beliefs you want to center yourself before you go.
No, I've noticed as well that it's become a bit of a fad. I mean, when I did it a year ago, it was never meant to be a fad or anything. But as I read about it, I think it's becoming sort of fashionable. Yeah, which is not right.
I did it back in 2016. And when I did it, I did it in Holland, and I spoke to a person beforehand. It was very much, I got a good vibe about it. It was like, okay, I'm doing this, part of curiosity. I just want to see what it's about as well. And it very much was calling to me when I was doing it. It was like a few people were telling me about it. I wanted to do the research about it because I wanted to do it in a place that's safe. Safety is of utmost importance, because when you're in your journey, you're in those hours where you're under. So this was from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to like 9 o'clock in the evening. So you're in there for about 7 hours. And you want to have guides over you, protecting you, maybe singing to you, maybe like holding your hand or doing whatever it is. People are experienced in that. And you want to find your reasons as well why you want to do it in the first place. As opposed to, I'm going to do it just because it's popular, just because it's the thing to do. And so in a country like Peru, I know people might advertise it at an airport. Yeah, I've heard it advertised at an airport as you go. As you go in, I've heard people say it's like, oh, it's advertised at the airport, which means that you're getting a lot of fake people coming up and doing it. Because the whole point of this is that whether you're doing ayahuasca or you're doing journeys, whatever the journey is, that you're paying respect to the plant, you're paying respect to the whole process.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a key point, that we have to respect the plant, the spirit of the plant, and the entire process. So I've been told by a very experienced shaman that the spirit of the plant, the mother, she does not like being taken out of her home, which is in the Amazon forest. So what we're doing now is taking the plant and brewing the mixture or the medicine in Europe or all over the world. She doesn't really like that. So you might not get the maximum effect.
That's why it's important to, if you are going to do it in Europe, find someone that has been trained in that, and like not like a weekend course on how to administer it, because it's one thing administering it, it's one thing knowing what to do when something goes wrong, how to like guide someone through their journey, how to be present with them.
Absolutely. Cool, Stav. We've reached the end of the episode. What takeaways would you give men who are maybe trying to find purpose, who are trying to become the best versions of themselves?
The best thing I will say is look at the areas where you get your have tos. I have to do this, I have to do that. Because when you have those have tos, you're not in freedom. There's no freedom there. It's like, I'm doing something, but I feel like I have to do it. There's no choice. So look at the areas where those have tos are coming up and investigate those have tos. Like, why do I feel like, in your example, why do I feel I have to work, as opposed to when I choose to work, I get so much freedom? And not in a choose and not choose in a sense where it's like, oh, I've made like $1 billion and now I can relax. Because believe it or not, I work with 7 and 8 figure clients, and they've made 10, 20, $100 million a year, and they still had those have tos. Oh man, I'll be happy when I get to that point. I'll be happy when I make 200 million or 500 million, because you can't get enough of what you didn't want in the first place.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And for my listeners, I vouch for Stav, because I had a session with him, and honestly, straight after, I felt very relaxed. And since November last year, I haven't felt the same pressure. I mean, there's pressure coming from within me, but not negative pressure.
Because now you have choice. You can choose to like, because like before you would say I'd wake up in the morning, I'd wake up late, and I feel guilty for waking up late. And because I feel guilty for waking up late, that might even send me into a spiral of like, oh, well, my day's wasted or whatever, or I need to cram so much more stuff in.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for that, Stav. And where can people find you?
You can contact me at clear-discover.com. That's clear-discover.com.
I'll link that in the description below. Cool. With that, Stav, let's grab a beer then.
Awesome. Non-alcoholic for me, please.
Yeah, me as well.
Cool. Dhruv, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and thank you very much for the invite onto your podcast. I've had a blast.
Yeah, me too. And great having you. And we should do this again.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
If you like this episode, then make sure to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review. That will help me get to people just like you. Also, make sure to visit mlmpod.info. Keep acquiring knowledge, and I'll see you in the next episode.